welcome to Wrestling and Everything Coast to Coast with your host, Buddy Sotelo Esquire, effervescent Evan Ginsberg, and coming all the way from Italy, Il Drago. Thank you so much for joining us today. A couple of little technical difficulties. We can get Evan's camera to work, but we still have his ebullient audio to bring us forward. And you all know what Evan looks like, so you don't tune into this podcast for our looks, that's for sure. So, but welcome so much, coming all the way from Italy. It's our first Italian wrestling guest that we've ever had on the show. So, welcome so much, Il Drago, and thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for giving me this wonderful opportunity to, speak to you guys and to all our listeners and promote what I'm doing and just have a good time all along. Very good.
So, so tell me, how did you get started in professional wrestling? What was the sort of wrestling that you used to watch as a child in Italy? Tell us about that.
Okay, let's start from that one because that's already an interesting story and really which I enjoy telling. So stop me at any point if I'm getting too verbal.
No, right. No, it's your show. You tell us about you.
Right. So the story goes like this. I was born in 1976, so I turned 50 in March, and when I was very little, Italy got invaded by Japanese cartoons because one or two cartoons got really popular as they just started showing many. In Italy, we always had lots of local channels. So whenever we flicked with our remote, we had like 20 or 30 options. And basically in the early 1982, they started showing the Tiger Mask cartoon. The old Tiger Mask cartoon. It was made in 1969. So if you watch it, you actually recognize some wrestlers from that era. They mention the Briscoes, I think they mention Lutez, Guy and Baba and Inoki have a strong role in it. So anyway, that's actually, if anybody ever gets a chance to watch that, maybe even with subtitles, I strongly recommend it because it's a fantastic story. And a few months later, they started showing New Japan. This is autumn 1982. On the same program, we would have New Japan for men and All Japan women. And as I'm sure you know, though, this was a golden time for Japanese wrestling where they could afford to book the best Americans. So we familiarized with Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, the British Bulldogs, and of course, all the Japanese heroes. And the funny thing is, the commentator took it very seriously. The product was very credible. And so people bought it like 100%. They thought, they're really kidding each other. Also because there was the cartoon. Now, imagine viewers who had heard of Inoki and Baba in the cartoon and thought, well, maybe those characters were, created for the story. And then they discovered that Inoki existed and that there was a real live Tiger Mask. It was like if you had Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck suddenly being alive, or like Batman fighting evil thugs on TV, on the news. So the success was incredible, even though it was local channels. The commentator is still remembered, and we recently honored him in the Italian Wrestling Hall of Fame, which is a project I'm looking after. Anyway, that continued for a few years. They had new episodes and reruns, and then in late 1986, the WWF in full Hulkamania mood arrived, this time on a national network. And that was it. And ever since, I'd been following, reading about it, writing about it, and then let's see if we can get Evan back with us.
There we are.
Oh, good. In Technicolor.
Fourth time's charmer, like the sixth time's charm. Thank you.
It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for
anyway,
staying with us.
So anyway, that was it. Like America, like so basically, Italy got familiar with Japanese wrestling in '82, and they kept showing it for many years. WWF in 1986. And then the story gets more complicated with moments when they stop showing it. But that was my background pretty much. And for most wrestling fans my age.
Were your parents fans of wrestling, or do you have a brother,
Well,
sister, or anything?
right. My father is Italian, but my mother is English, which might explain why
The
I'm
accent.
accused. The accent, if you think so, and also why I'm particularly at ease. Like I'm an English teacher. I teach English and Italian
Now,
to
there is
companies
something
and
somebody has
individuals.
in common. There is something somebody has in common. Evan also is an English teacher as well. English is second language.
That's awesome.
It's 6 degrees of separation. I was sitting in Madison Square Garden in 1982, and who comes out? Dynamite Kid and Tiger Mask. Tiger Mask.
Yeah.
And super heavyweight territory, WWF, and we're used to these 300-pound monstrous guys, and we sat there with our mouths opened, and yeah, Dynamite Kid and Tiger Mask helped revolutionize wrestling and take it to a whole different place, and yeah, we're all one world, one people, influenced. I'm sitting here with a Bruce Lee shirt,
Yeah.
I mean, we're all, we all influence each other, and it's too bad we fight over race, religion, politics, because basically we want the same things in life. And tell us a little about Milano wrestling.
Well, I'll tell you in a minute, but first, I'm really curious to ask you, Evan, and I'm sure some Italian guys will be curious to ask you as well.
Sure.
Like, can you confirm that the reaction in Madison Square Garden was very good for Tiger Mask against Dynamite Kid?
Oh yeah. We sat there. We were in awe. We were stunned. We never saw anything like this. This was 1982, pre-internet, pre-cell phone. Except for like the really, really serious tape traders, nobody knew these guys. We heard of them from primitive sheets if you read them at the time, but unless you were an avid tape trader, and I really wasn't, honestly, it was just, you were stunned. You were absolutely stunned. It just, you had seen something revolutionary. I mean, I was also there when Snuka jumped off the cage. You had never seen anything like that before, when he jumped off the cage on Morocco. And, wrestling was going to a whole different, and then, of course, the Hogan era, everything changed also. But, yeah, Tiger Mask, incredibly influential.
And I had the honor of working a show with Misawa.
There you go.
Oh, that's amazing.
He was one of the Tiger Masks. And I mean, I would say that I've worked shows where people like John Cena was in the locker room, when Rikishi was in the locker room, when Christopher Daniels was in the locker room, when you name it. Nobody had more honor and draw and just like stop the locker room when he walked in than Misawa. Like everybody just, just froze in place, and literally just while he walked into the locker room, everybody's eyes followed where he went. He was as much of he was like having Ric Flair in our locker room. And yeah, the respect that was when I was with Pro Wrestling Iron, and we were doing things with Pro Wrestling Noah, and he was associated with Pro Wrestling Noah, and made a very rare visit to the United States, and it was really quite an honor to meet him. So his legend and the legend of Tiger Mask goes from coast to coast here in America, and we all pretty much, at least, Misawa version of him is something that everybody has utmost respect for. So certainly,
a lot of people say Misawa was incredible, but he wasn't the best Tiger Mask, simply because they all compared him to Sayama. And fair enough, Sayama was even more acrobatic. But the funny thing is, if you actually read the comic and watched the cartoon, Misawa wrestled the most similar style to the cartoon and the comic, because the comic and the cartoon were really violent. They killed each other in the ring. And unfortunately, he wrestled a violent style. Violent not because of weapons, but the head dropping, the stiff kicks, and so on, which ended up, unfortunately, costing his life. And he knew this. He had a letter for the opponent of the match that would kill him. I don't know if did you know this?
No.
He had prepared a letter for his opponent in case he died in the ring, saying, "It's not your fault. I don't blame you. Please carry on wrestling."
Well, Drago,
he knew his body was falling apart.
Another little asterisk is that my good friend who wound up dying later was Mark Smith, and he was part of the six-man tag team where Misawa took that drop on the back of his head and died. So that's my other little Misawa story, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Is my friend Mark Smith was. I don't know if you know who Mark Bison Smith was at all. Maybe he might.
Yeah, no, I heard about him. I saw him in Result. I don't think I've seen a few matches. Was it like Old Japan and then Noah or something?
I used to manage him. I managed him when he started out, and he was my good friend, and we do tribute shows to him every year. He's much missed in my. I managed him at Super Destroyer 2000, then I managed against him in Pro Wrestling Iron with all sorts of guys, including Nigel McGuinness and other stuff. But we're not to interview me. I just wanted to
right. No,
we brought up Misawa, kind of.
And keeping track of all the things to say, I asked you, Evan, if the reception was good, because I find it quite incredible that only 3 years later, Vince Jr. had got rid of all foreign wrestlers, high-flying, anything. I mean, he could have easily had that style on his shows, and he deliberately decided to get rid of it. And I understand his strategy that he wanted to make wrestling a certain way, but it was highly frustrating, obviously. Also for us fans in Italy, that we got brought up with New Japan, and when WWF arrived, we loved it. I mean, don't get me wrong, but we also wanted the technical high-flying, and all we had was Coco Beware losing matches after a couple of drop kicks.
Yeah.
For the following few years.
Yeah.
That was it. That was all the high-flying that you could get.
Pretty much.
But anyway, you asked me if my parents liked wrestling. They were not fans, but my mother knew about it because being English, in England it was so big. And we just discovered that my grandparents used to watch it on ITV and find it quite amusing. So, or my great-grandparents, I think. But no, it started from me. So my parents didn't watch it. And then you wanted to know about Milan wrestling, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm one of the guys that restarted wrestling in 2001. And we firmly believed that Italy had never had wrestling and that we were the first ones, virtually self-trained, so it was horrible. But then we gradually picked it up. I was living in England for a while. I studied from some old school wrestling schools. We started booking foreign guys, and the movement got better. And now I'm the announcer of Milano Wrestling. Milano Wrestling, my background is an AI-enhanced photo of one of their shows. They're doing very well for indie proportions. We usually get around 500-600 paying customers. They're very hot. They make a lot of noise.
That would make you a very successful indie in the United States, by the way. If you drew 500 to 600 every show, you'd be a very successful indie out here.
We run 4 every year, just outside Milan, quite regularly, like September, November, March, and May, sort of-ish. So if you ever plan to make a trip
That would be
across the pond,
such a bucket list item to watch an indie show in Italy. That would be totally bucket list territory for me. Absolutely.
we got loads of shows. I mean, Milano Wrestling, I know other people are going to watch this and they don't want me to say, oh, Milano Wrestling and nothing else. No, there's quite a few leagues that are doing very well. There's a smaller one in Venice, smaller because they just book smaller venues, but they sell them out in advance. There's a very good one in Tuscany. There's
Wow.
one that runs shows in Abruzzo. Abruzzo is where a lot of your heroes came from. Sammartino,
Yeah.
Elio Di Paolo, Michele Leone. Abruzzo is really a land of wrestlers. So there's a few good indie shows. I'm sure I'm forgetting to mention there's Naples, all sorts. Of course, if you want to come and see me announcing in a kind of a flamboyant way, because I do it in character, Milan is the place to be.
There you go.
That's fascinating. So tell me about Il Drago and
Yeah.
and what Drago is all about. I mean, have you gotten in the ring yourself?
Oh yeah, I mean, in 2001 when we did the first shows, originally I volunteered to be a booker and I didn't want to wrestle because they were all self-trained and it looked dangerous. Then we met a guy from Santo Domingo, a Dominican guy who used to wrestle under Carlos Colon. Carlos Colon is from Santo Domingo, yeah? Okay, in that area, came to Italy, set up his own thing, he trained us a bit, and I said, right, I've got jiu-jitsu background, I want to do it as well. And then a friend of mine had brought me an Ultimo Drago mask when I was purely a fan, and I said, right, if I'm going to try and wrestle a match, I want a mask, because I used to watch Tiger Mask, and I put an Ultimo Drago mask on. Then things started getting serious. Ultimo Drago moved to Italy. I thought, oh, he's going to kick my ass if he thinks I'm ripping him off. And so I designed with my mother, who's a bit of an artist, my own mask. I bought it. The character evolved, but basically I was a evil genius, thick and shit heel that turned people against one another and did promos. And I hailed from London. In the beginning, I even refused to speak Italian, and I would carry the English flag, and I was that kind of heel. But then after 7 years of wrestling, where I wrestled in Spain, in Switzerland, England a little bit, but mostly in Spain, along with Italy, I started having nagging injuries. The scene was going down. I wasn't really getting paid much. And I said, right, I'm hurting myself just for my ego. And I thought, I'll take a break. And that break became permanent. But I always remained in the business one way or another, either helping promoting, now doing some ring announcing. And a few years ago, I started researching Italy's past. Because, as I said earlier, we thought wrestling. And instead, from the 30s to the mid 60s, wrestling was quite popular. They were running shows, they were running arenas we would never dream of run now. So 2, 3, 4,000 people. And when Carnera came to Italy, it could go up to 5 or 10,000. But one of the reasons we forgot all about it, and literally Italy is not aware of its own past, there's like a damnatio memoriae in Latin, is that we called it catch. We called it catch even when Japanese wrestling arrived. The TV broadcast was called Catch the Catch. Italians pronounce it catch. And we called it catch, and we thought it was kind of more violent. When WWF arrived in Italy, the TV program was Superstars of Wrestling, and the American commentator called it wrestling. So, number one, some people still argue that New Japan was a shoot and WWF was all fake because of the difference in the product and in how it was presented. But moreover, I think that Italy forgot about its own past, because if you ask any old dude, he'll tell you, oh yeah, I watched Carnera back in the day. That was catch. None of that American stuff, you know? So it's all really weird. But I started researching archives. I started getting hold of people. I discovered a couple of wrestlers were still alive. And I managed to get people interested, so we shot a movie, was kind of a documentary about two brothers who went to Venezuela, learned wrestling, came back to Italy, and then one of them became an extra and a stuntman in Rome in the Cinecittà in the movie industry. I know I'm bringing in a lot of interesting topics, but honestly, wrestling just gathers together so many things, and each story will be worthy of a podcast.
Yeah, Evan knows a thing or two about documentaries himself.
Oh yeah, he's the man about them.
Yeah,
thank you.
So, so you designed your own mask, and it looks like you're real comfortable in it. I got to tell you, one thing I love about wrestling, one of my favorite things, is the masked wrestler. You know, I managed Mark Smith, the Super Destroyer 2000. I created a character named Mr. Massacre, who I managed for a while, and I also have a lucha guy named Leopardo Loco. And every Halloween, I go and I wear a mask. And the one thing that's scary about wearing a mask is how you get used to wearing it. And like after a while, you almost feel weird not wearing it. And so, you know, people don't understand that. Some people feel very claustrophobic in a mask, and sometimes it's the most freeing thing in the world because nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows what your expression is. What are your thoughts on having a mask?
Yeah, well, you said it all, really. It provides you with a different identity, and at first it's kind of weird that it's not yourself. Then after a while, you grow into it, and it's fun, and then it also allows you to switch between personalities, to switch between characters. It also allows you to walk around the arena just before the show, and people don't really know who you are. There are a lot of possibilities. We've always loved masks in Italy. We love them because of the cartoon. Honestly, Tiger Mask is difficult to really describe how big the cartoon was. It's still popular. I mean, now, so 44 years after it first came out, you can buy every 2 weeks an action figure from the cartoon. They started selling them last year, and they're still really popular.
Wow.
And so that was another thing that bugged me about the WWF, and which luckily changed now. Like in the late 80s, suddenly there were no masked wrestlers, and the only ones you could see, it was for fun. It was like the Conquistadores or whatever.
Yeah,
strongly believed in the face, in the facials. And again, you know, I got taught to not criticize in public too much people that wrestle, you know, people that made more money than me, you know. Until I joined wrestling.
Wait, is that different than the United States? I'll tell you, that's very different than the United States. We always criticize people who make more money than us. That's a mainstay of U.S. philosophy. But continue, Drago.
Well, I don't know. I just maybe had a good teacher that told me, you know, at the end of the day, you're lucky if you get, I don't know, 50 euros or whatever from a show, and they're like making millions. So when something is different, first thing you should ask yourself, you know, why are they doing it this way? And are you wrong not doing it this way? And all of that. So that's what I normally do. Having said this, I will tell you respectfully what I don't like, as I'm doing now, what I didn't like at the time, and some things I don't like about it now. But starting from the assumption, of course, that it works for them, and all that. But I will tell you my opinions, don't worry. I'm not here to hide behind things. But again, I mean, he believed in facials. He didn't believe in masks. That's what he did. But then in the end, when Mysterio arrived to WWE, he put a mask back on because obviously by then they had realized that there was money to be made.
Absolutely. Evan, you got another question?
Yeah, I like that backdrop behind you. Is that an original painting?
So basically, this is a lovely photo
It's a
of
photo. Wow, it
Milano
looks like a
Wrestling.
painting.
No, well, I'm getting there. Originally, it was a great photo of a former Italian wrestler that used to be really good. He could have gone to America, but he did his knee in. He secretly came to one of our shows because he didn't want to say hello to all the guys. He took a wonderful picture, and then I like to play around with the AI, and I asked ChatGPT, I said, can you turn it into, let's say, aquarello or, watercolors? Like, turn the photo into a watercolor painting style image. And here it is. Let me go down a second.
That's beautiful.
And it was once again a packed arena. I was about to come out and get the crowd going and do my gig.
So, what do you? Oh, sorry, Evan, go ahead.
I was going to say, looking at that, I keep thinking to myself, I want to be there. It has atmosphere. No, really.
Now the atmosphere is crazy, and to be honest, they also love me because because I do the former wrestler announcing and not the announcer, because the announcer needs to blend in. You didn't even notice him. But because he's the former wrestler with a mask, I take more liberties in high fiving, get the crowd going. And it worked with the atmosphere. But now they chant my name before I even come out, and I think it's kind of getting out of hand. It's just, the announcer is not supposed to be this over. So a couple of times during the shows I have to say, guys, you need to announce the show. I'm sorry. They go, Drago.
Yeah.
Drago.
Now, Drago, do you do color or do you do play-by-play?
No, sorry, maybe I didn't choose the right word for it. I do what Gary Michael Capetta did.
Oh, you're a ring announcer. Okay, yeah, ring announcer.
Yeah, ring announcer, yeah.
Oh,
and then I sit in a corner between matches. Sorry?
My brother did that for the shows that we did. And I wound up having to do it as on an emergency basis. And I remember one thing, I misread the wrestler's weights, and one of them got absolutely belligerent to me.
Oh God!
I said his weight was too heavy, and he was like, "How dare you say that I weigh 300 pounds?"
It's usually the other way around. They usually don't want to be lighter, not heavier.
No, he really took it out on me. So sometimes my brother said he would always go and talk to all the wrestlers ahead of time and find out how they wanted to be announced, and if they had special gimmick things that they wanted to be said. Like, one of the wrestlers, when you would say where he's from, his location was none of your damn business.
That's funny.
So do you do that with some of the wrestlers that come in, or especially talent that comes from outside? How do you deal with that?
I ask them where they want to be hailed from. I suggest if there's anything I think will work better. I ask them about the weight. They're usually not too bothered, and I do make mistakes, but I usually realize right away, and maybe I correct myself and make a joke about, only a couple of days ago, I spoke to a guy from Tuscany. He told me where he was from, and I spoke to another guy from Tuscany, and he was from another city, and those two cities hate each other, and that city stuck in my head. So I announced it.
Which two cities hate each other?
Hang on,
we
guys.
Don't even know.
I got the paper out of the pocket, and I said, no, not Pisa, Livorno. Oh, what have I done, guys? And so I turned it into a comedy act, and the crowd seems to... I even got back from the break once. I'd run to the toilet a second, and I got back for the second half. And my trousers were not completely done, basically. They were a bit open. And people started going, trousers.
Yeah. Well, fans noticed everything.
But again, it became part of the show.
Which two cities hate each other? We don't know this in the United States.
Well, now, Italy became a country, one country, united, in 1861. That's actually quite recent. This means that the father of my grandmother was not born in Italy. Because my grandmother was born in 1905, well, she's dead now, but she was, and her grandparents were not born in Italy. So we were like all sorts of regions and cities and counties governed by local noblemen and all having problems with one another. And now in this precise case, it's Pisa, where you have the leaning tower, and I said, hailing from Pisa, and then I realized he's hailing from Livorno, which in English has a translation as Leghorn, and it was where American troops were during the Second World War. They still have a military base if your president doesn't shut it down. And it's called Camp Darby. They absolutely hate each other. And so the guy kept reminding me playfully, oh my God, you said I was from Pisa. I can't believe it. But there's all sorts of rivalries like that in Italy. Italy is like lots of different countries. You know when you say that people from Texas might have a problem being understood in New York, or people from Stanford being understood in, I don't know where, New Mexico. Honestly, I mean, I speak languages. It's nothing compared to the Italian dialects. We call them dialects simply because they don't have a state and an army to represent them, but they're languages. They are languages. Italians learned how to speak one language thanks to television, which arrived in 1954. For that, you needed to be well educated to be able to speak Italian properly. And I was telling my child today that Sarah's my partner, her grandmother died a couple of years ago, would have been 100 now. She struggled speaking Italian. She made the effort to speak Italian to me, but she spoke Milanese. And if you're from the south of Italy, Milanese is hard. It is. It's honestly. So we are a lot of languages, and each city, even little towns, are built like capitals with their own cathedrals, with their own castles, with their own languages, with their own pride. Italians are not very proud of being Italian. They are when they emigrate. So I'm sure the people in America who are Italians, I'm Italian. But in Italy, we don't care as much about the flag of Italy as much as we do about our city. People will get more offended if you criticize their city rather than their country.
That is fascinating. That is really fascinating.
So I need to ask this question as a lifelong New Yorker. We pretty much worship Bruno Sammartino here. He was like a half god. A friend of mine had a Bruno shrine in her apartment next to her Elvis Presley shrine. no exaggeration. So as wrestling fans and historians, I mean, Bruno made his fame in the United States. Obviously, he was born in Italy. His story is well known. What's your take on Bruno as far as popularity and importance and all of that?
Well, if we want to talk about him within the context of the world and the context of the States and the history of wrestling, I think, or the world of him, it's like he's a hero. He was incredible. He did so much and all that. But what might interest you more to hear is that we discovered relatively late how Italian he was. I mean, he appeared as an interviewer in the first few months of WWF in Italy, and the American commentator wasn't really sure he was fully Italian. He probably thought he had Italian origin, so he never really pushed that much. And so we weren't really aware of it. We started being more aware of it, of how great he was, and the fact that he was 100% Italian with the internet in the 90s. And then when he came to Pizzo Ferrato his town in 2000. I was supposed to go there with other people who wrote on websites who would later end up forming ICW, the first wrestling league. They went to interview him. Unfortunately, I couldn't get time off from my civil service duties because we still had the army back in the day, but you could choose to do civil work instead. I was in an old people home. They didn't let me go. And then in the last few years, we started worshipping him more and more. They've been doing a great job in his town. There's a statue of him. They're now doing a show every year. I was really proud to announce the show last year when we inducted Bruno Sammartino in the Italian Wrestling Hall of Fame. He was the first in, but unfortunately, we couldn't really get hold of the family. We didn't even probably try hard enough. We gave the award to the mayor, who got his own shrine in the council building of Pizzo Ferrato. There's all sorts of posters. There's one of his champion bells, and we did the show a few meters away from his home. I've been trying to establish how often he came to Italy and so long, but really he's still not known by non-wrestling fans, and even casual wrestling fans might not know him. He's really, because you see, this is where it's really weird. 95% of things and people which are big in America are big in Italy. Because in terms of shows, entertainment, movies, and so on, we are colonies, basically. There are a lot of people who refuse to watch Italian movies. They just want Hollywood movies. They don't like Italian music. They just want English and American music. We know about the American school system. We know the most incredible. We know about Thanksgiving, you see, and it doesn't work the other way around because, of course, I've been to America. The news don't talk about Italy unless, I don't know, the Pope dies or something. And but they don't know about Bruno. And I thought, when I need to tell people how big he was, I say, right, he was the king of New York. Everybody knew him. The Madison Square Garden was always sold out for him. Bruno Mars calls himself Bruno. The father thought that he looked like Bruno when he was little. And Schwartzy was a massive fan and who inducted him. He was his hero. And then people started going, oh my God. He
was champion for 9 years. I mean, you think about...
Yeah, it must have... Yeah, totally. So, we are trying to get people to know about him, but really, I think they should make a movie about him and not just a documentary, like,
biopic,
movie about all his life. I mean, when he got saved by a run-in of partisans from being shot by the Nazi, that's like a perfect movie scene. And you don't even need to change anything about it. Usually when you do biopics, you have to change things, otherwise they're not very interesting. With him, you just need to tell them the truth.
Yeah,
the movie writes itself.
He was starving. He was eating snow and leaves and
And whenever the mother left to go and grab food, they didn't know if they would ever see her again. You realize how scary that is. You see your mother going down the valley and you say, maybe I've said goodbye to her for the last time.
Yeah.
So
speaking of, you have children or one child?
I have 2 kids.
And how old are
Ricardo is 10 and he will turn 8 in July.
Okay.
And so far we've kept them away from wrestling. Because Ricardo tends to get obsessed with anything he really likes. For example, he used to be obsessed with Pinocchio. He's been obsessed with Super Mario for quite a few years. And you
don't feel that Mario is like a totally offensive stereotype of Italians, then, do you? Because it is.
He's not perceived like that. No, he's not. It's not even that. Oh, he's an Italian hero. People don't even think of him as very much as like either a national pride or a national shame. I mean, he's there. He's meant to be Italian, but I'm sorry, I'm blurring into the background. I don't know why.
That's all right. It's a nice background. It's a nice background. So don't worry about
Better
it.
than me, huh? You know.
Yeah.
So you guys aren't upset that we all think that, that Mario and Luigi are, quote unquote typical Italian Americans, in the
No,
Italian
I'm
American
trying to
stereotype.
think about anything that might upset Italians in terms of stereotypes, but
Speaking of stereotypes, I do
maybe
want to
when they
know.
say mafia all the time, people get upset. I don't care. I mean, I got dual nationality, so I feel, above all those things, but I got Italian and British, it's okay. But people do get offended when, as soon as something is Italian, it gets associated to mafia. That's probably the thing that people dislike the most.
Well, that was my character, as Buddy Sotelo
Mm.
Esquire would say, an Italian attorney that represented, that kind. I called my guys the Sotelo Syndicate. So, but again, it was all a kayfabe thing. But I do want to know, because just speaking of stereotypes, what kind of food do they serve at a wrestling match in Italy? We always think, in America, you get a hot dog, you get hamburgers, you get nachos, but what do they serve the wrestling audience in an indie show in Italy?
Well, Italians got some quite restrictive laws about how easily you can sell food and drinks, and you need all sorts of. Italy, anything in Italy is more complicated than in Anglo-Saxon countries. All sorts of laws and regulations. Having said that, this food is served in some shows, and I believe that while I'm announcing the Milano Wrestling show, whenever possible, they arrange slices of pizza that looks more like the American one, like deep, how do you call that? I
Deep
can't remember.
Deep dish.
Deep pan or something thick chunks of pizza. Because it would be completely impossible to serve the usual round one. For that, you need to sit down at a restaurant. But the thick one in rectangular rectangular shape.
Detroit stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, they sell that, and they sell beer whenever possible, water. But as I said, it's and in general, I mean, if you go to watch Serie A, so top level football, soccer as you call it, and you are in a massive stadium in San Siro, and you're going to think, oh my God, in Italy, they're going to serve me the best food I've ever had at a match. We're actually behind with that.
Huh.
It's the thing that Italians always say about watching sports in America was, oh, it was lovely. Even if I picked a boring game, I ate this, I drank that. And the only baseball game I went to in my life, it was at the old Sky Dome in Toronto. Now it's got another name.
Wow.
And I watched a 2-1 victory by the Jays, I think. The Jays is the Blue Jays of Toronto.
Right.
Yeah, so 3 points in baseball is nothing. So it's like a boring game. And people said, but did you like it? Of course. I had roast beef with a glass of rum. How can you beat that?
Well,
and I say it as a very special thing, because in Italy, you won't get that anywhere.
Wow, yeah, no, food at baseball and football stadiums are becoming their own thing. Some people just go strictly because they want to try some of the extreme foods that you can get at the stadiums here, and they don't even care what is happening on the field or anything like that. So interesting. But yeah, here in America, we all do think that everywhere you go in Italy, the food is a million times better than what you get here in the United States. We all are fascinated by the food out here, and so
it's true. And if you ever come to Italy, it's not the top restaurants where you see the difference, because yes, they will be amazing, but also in America, if you go to a top restaurant that's very expensive, you're going to get good food. Where you really see the difference is in cheap food, like going to a bar, on the motorway, we've got what we call autogrill. So they are stops where you go, you fill up on petrol, you get in, and you can get a fresh sandwich any time of the day, often even of the night. And that's where you see the difference, because in Italy, if you serve bad food, even if it's really cheap, nobody's going to buy it. So the real difference is the $20 place that for $20 will give you maybe even two courses, drinks and coffee, large portions, and you go, oh my God, did I really just eat for that?
Well, in America, $20 won't even buy you a burger these days. So yeah, we're going through our own economic problems. But so you say you've wrestled and you've done stuff outside of Italy, but have you ever done anything in the United States?
No, I mean, when you go to wrestle in the United States, unless you get a successful tryout with WWE, you need to fly yourself, get bookings in advance, consider it like a holiday where you make some pocket money. And I just never had that thought, that idea. When I wrestled, I also had a strong hand trying to run the place where I was wrestling. And so I was trying to get bookings in Europe, but America would have just been another, an extra step. I came to America for work. I used to be a video game tester. I lived in a residence in something Hills. Woodland Hills, is that a part of LA? Are you in LA,
Yeah.
Russ? Where are you?
Yes. Or Woodside, either Woodside or Woodland. They're two
and
different
is Woodland
ones.
Hills a place?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is.
Okay. We were based there because we were working for a company called Neversoft that produced
I
the Tony
remember
Hawk
Neversoft.
games.
Interesting.
They produced Tony Hawk games, and I was testing the language for a Tony Hawk game. And there was the Battle of Los Angeles indie show when I was there. I didn't dream of volunteering to wrestle because that was a really top show. But I thought I'll go and see it. I feel bad about him because he made the effort and then I never took the opportunity. But basically, I messaged Colt Cabana because by wrestling in Italy and in Europe and running things, I met a few wrestlers. I mean, probably the guys I got to know best, American guys, was probably Chad Collier. We booked Chad Collier a few times.
I've done shows with Chad.
Okay, cool guy.
Some other names
cool guy and a policeman in Gotham City. That was his big Hollywood role. Do you know that?
Yes, I do remember that. So throw out some other names.
So anyway, Colt Cabana, he said, it's sold out, but maybe, just maybe, I can let you in. Oh, lovely, you're a star. But then I didn't have my own car, it was complicated, and I didn't take the opportunity. But anyway, so I got to know him. I got to know Chad Collier. I mean, we exchanged birthday wishes for many years. I trained with Christopher Daniels.
Managed him, and I've worked a number of shows with Christopher. I've managed him.
Okay.
He worked up in Northern California too, and came up, worked some APW shows. And I managed him once with Vinny Massaro in a tag team championship match against Westside Police.
No, that's great.
One of the nicest guys in the entire universe. I mean, can you get a nicer guy than Christopher Daniels? I don't think so. He's super nice. Really love the guy.
He ran a seminar, and me and the other Italian guy was there with. We did terribly because we had very little experience, and he was running complicated international drills. I remember we tried one and he just looked at us and went, sloppy. That was amusing. But I spoke to him, and maybe because I was Italian, but I had long dreadlocks at the time. And we talked a little bit. And then 9 months later, he came to wrestle in England. And I went up to him and said, oh, hello, how are things in Italy? Do you remember who I am? Of course I do. And he was really friendly, and he really, made a note in his brain. Oh, and the details, sorry. When I went up to him 9 months later, I was completely shaven. Didn't have any of the dreadlocks. But he recognized me. And he was super nice. And then I trained with, he did Brian Danielson did a seminar. Very
Brian
interesting
Danielson, APW guy. Okay?
one. Okay.
So we have a lot
You
more
know
in
what he
common than you think.
You know, he did something really interesting. He basically showed us some basic moves like headlock, wrist lock, but he put them on for real for a couple of seconds until we tapped out. Because he said, I want to show you how those holds are meant to be so that you can adjust your selling and your body language and your reaction. And that was great. I told this myself to my trainees back when I had trainees. It's really, really useful.
Sounds like
So
you know a
those
lot of
four,
the Southern Cal guys. Did you work with Samoa Joe at all?
no, I never came across him. No, I never did. I remembered just today because a lot of the WWE guys are now doing interviews and podcasts with Italians because they are about to invade Italy. I mean, you probably know there's a premium live event in Italy in Turin
Next week.
in 7 days, and they've really stacked up the card. It's really fighting. They're doing a mini WrestleMania because while Backlash had some matches that were, imported but not. Do you know the card? Maybe we should repeat it for viewers. There's Roman Reigns.
It's Reigns and Fatu, and it's
Yes.
Oba and
Lesnar,
Brock,
which is a huge match.
Yeah.
And then there's Rhea Ripley against Jade Cargill. Another rematch from WrestleMania. There's another top women match. Maybe Becky Lynch, maybe Charlotte. I can't remember
But
exactly.
it's a big deal for Italy to have.
And they got Cody Rhodes against Gunther, and that is a match that you really don't know how it's going to go. I mean, it could go either way, and you don't get that very often. If you think about it, when you watch a PLE, most matches you kind of know the direction they're going. Because I mean, you watched wrestling for many years, you got involved with it, you can tell. But with this one, we don't really know. Yeah. So they're really running a very big match, a very big card, and it's kind of a big deal because WWE just got on Italian Netflix. Until 3 months ago, it wasn't on the Italian Netflix. Now that it is, a lot of people who used to watch wrestling and stopped a long time ago, they're giving wrestling another chance because it's there in their menu. While they're choosing between, Stranger Things, the Seinfeld reruns, whatever, there is WWE. And so a lot of guys have been texting me and they're buying a lot of space on major sports newspapers. Recently, they did an incredible crossover between two top Italian comedians and Danhausen. And when we saw it, we went, oh my God, this is the multiverse. Because we never thought they would be in the same. And maybe their most famous sketch revolves around the concept of a chair. Because in Milanese, the word for chair, in Italian is sedia. In Milanese is cadrega, completely different. So they used to do a sketch where they confused a Sicilian guy who was pretending to be Milanese by saying, come on, take a cadrega. And he would start going. And then he took a pen and he went, ha, 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 he thinks that's a cadrega. And so now they did a thing with Danhausen where Danhausen has a chair and they go, you with that cadrega. And then there's Danhausen at the end of the TV spot saying in Italian, I love this cadrega. It's really, really funny. So they're really, really reaching for the sky. And you know what? Whatever you think of their product, it benefits the whole movement. Because 4 years into my career, 3 years into my career, it had experienced a massive boom, WWE boom. SmackDown was on a national channel. And all of a sudden, shows that would draw 200 fans draw 1,000. honestly, it's one of the biggest wrestling crazes ever in the world because it multiplied by 5 or 10 the interest. And we're sort of keeping our fingers crossed that we can get something similar like that. Again, simply because then you sell more tickets for your shows.
Sure.
That's it. And who knows, maybe a competitor of Netflix might say, oh, they got the WWE, well, there's All Elite. We could try and put some money into a European or Italian product. It's far-fetched. If you ask me to put money on it, I would say that it's not going to happen. But who knows?
Absolutely.
So tell me about the future of Milano Wrestling and what do you guys have planned?
Well, the thing is that's a funny thing because I'm so argumentative. I like to talk. I like to write about things on my Facebook page. I've got this experience. People assume that I'm really involved with running it, but I'm not. I go in. I mean, I know one of the guys who's running it quite well. If I want, I can ask him what's going on, but I don't call any shots. So I wouldn't be really in a position to say Milano Wrestling wants to do this, this, and this. I always say to myself, because I've seen already booms fading away, I'd better enjoy what we have now. Of course, it might get bigger. We might do better. It might also stop. So, and if it stays like this, if it plateaus, well, we got 4 shows a year sold out, 500 people. They tend to sell 2 or 3 shows, summer shows. That's another big thing we have in Italy. Because of the weather, because of those towns with big squares, you can often sell open air wrestling shows for free. There are people who, rather than paying for a band or a singer or a comedian, they say, here, there's 3, 4 grand for you. That's an Italian open air wrestling show costs anything between 2,000 if you just do like 3 matches with local guys, up to 5,000, 6,000 if you want foreign guys. So if you're a good salesman, you can get a buzz around your product, they'll buy it. And I've announced shows in open squares before. You don't get the diehard fans. I don't get my chance, but that's fine. I don't care as long as I get paid at the end of it and that we do a good show. But the atmosphere is great. So, in fact, I would personally, with your background, tell you come to one of the Milan shows. But if you end up coming in the summer, you might instead go to one of those open air ones in the middle of a square, and then you'll find plenty of food and drinks because there's all the places around.
But okay, so tell me what's in the future for Il Drago. What is in your future?
There is to finish my book. I started writing this book in 2020 or 2021. And people have been telling me for years, come on, when are you going to finish this book? Come on, it's taking forever. And I said,
another thing Evan has.
But I'm busy. I'm busy. I procrastinate. I've got other hobbies. But on top of it, I keep discovering new things. You have no idea how hard it is to research Italian wrestling. I'll tell you this. If you try to research old school Italian wrestling from the 50s or the 60s, if I give you a few names to put on Google, you'll mostly end up on my page. Because before I started, there was nothing around, nothing. And I've been posting for the past 5 or 6 years, virtually every day, posters. Oh, and by the way, for you, Russell, or anyone who's watching this and speaks English, doesn't speak Italian, Facebook now has a feature where you click on the translation. It'll translate the post for you. So please come and look up. It's called Il Drago. Oh my God, I should write it, but it's not going to appear. But it's Il Drago fa ricerche su wrestling italiano. Il Drago researches wrestling in Italy, it's called. You should be able to find me. I also post pictures from American shows, from Japan. I mean, I try to keep it varied because it increases interest in it. But it's mostly Italian wrestling from back in the day, videos when I can find them. There must be 10 videos in total, connections with movies. Because when Italian wrestling died down, a lot of the wrestlers ended up becoming stuntmen. This is really fascinating stuff because my family loves cinema, I love wrestling and the connection. Of course, I don't need to explain it to Evan.
Evan, do you have any final questions for Il Drago?
I have one big question, and it's not an easy one. What would be your Mount Rushmore of Italian wrestlers, whether they're from your country, America, or elsewhere? Give me four of the greatest Italian wrestlers.
I love the fact that because you got Mount Rushmore in the States, you never asked for a top three or a top five.
So it's got to be four. That's
because
the
of Mount
yeah.
Rushmore.
Yeah.
It's a curse.
Yeah.
But right, this is the thing. If we consider any guy with an Italian passport, then of course there will be guys who move to America and wrestle there. So I'll give you that Mount Rushmore. Try to give you that because those are the guys that you know. But I try to also focus on the guys who never left Italy because people don't know about them and I want them to know this story. Go back to the American guys. There is, of course, Bruno Sammartino for sure. And there must be Antonino Rocca. Antonino Rocca is not far behind Sammartino. In fact, those two guys are head and shoulders above anybody else. And I think that any Mount Rushmore of Italian guys in America without them is not worth anything. The big question is the other two, of course. And this is hard because you need to establish who was drawing more at the time, who was doing better business. But I mean, I think, I think Carnera gets really a hard time by fans and historians simply because he never won the NWA title and because wasn't considered good in terms of work rate. But if you look at business-wise, he was a massive attraction. He was Andre before Andre. Anywhere he went, everybody wanted to see a giant who used to be a boxing world champion, even if you weren't Italian. And if you were Italian, oh my God. So I think I'll put him in the third slot. And then the fourth slot is really hard. I mean, you could make a case for Dino Bravo because Dino Bravo was actually Italian. And he was on WWF a lot, and people know him, even though we had no idea he was Italian when he was on the screen. But no, I think I'm going to go with
when he first started, they did call him part of
the
the Italian connection. They did have him wrestling with Dominic DeNucci, and they called them.
Oh yeah,
Italian
originally yes, but we only saw him as a French Canadian on Italian TV, so we had no idea. No, I think I like to pick Michele Leone, the Baron.
Yeah, I mean,
he got the biggest box office figure with Lutez back in the day. The first time you had over $100,000 of revenue from a show. It was in your area, Russell. I mean, in California, he was so big. In fact, people say the Lutez was kind of not happy, not comfortable with how popular he was when he got to California. Let's have those four. Then, of course, if you ask me about guys who wrestle in Italy, I would put other three names and still have Carnera, because Carnera wrestled a lot in Italy.
Well, that also goes into one topic that we didn't totally get into this show, which was the Italian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame that you're helping to put together, right?
Yeah. We decided, somebody originally once said, let's do our own Hall of Fame. And we said, yes, if a bunch of Italian guys puts together yet another worldwide Hall of Fame. There's no interest in that. There is interest in an Italian one, because I don't believe anybody's done it. And being based in Italy, we can make it so that is the top guys that move to America, like Sammartino, but also top guys in Italy. And also we are introducing, like, for example, commentators that were instrumental to the business doing well. I mean, we've already put the guy who called the Japanese shows. The one who called the American shows, WWF, who is American, he's 90, he's still alive. It's kind of tricky because he's a VIP, he's a celebrity. And so while the other guys, when you put them in a Hall of Fame, they're really glad, he would be glad, but on the other hand, I mean, he needs cash, and we don't have much cash. And then as we put people who nobody knows, and I'm sure people said, oh my God, they're putting that guy, nobody's ever heard about him. But I know, I've done the research, and I know we put in a Hall of Fame a guy who basically organized shows in Italy for 20 years. He was an Olympian for Russia when he was young at the Olympic Games. He was the manager of Carnera called Giorgio De Mine. So he's in it. His friend, another guy, Maschino, wrestled every single show for 20 years, died in the ring from a heart attack. We put him in the Hall of Fame and gave the award to his daughter, who was moved to tears. We put in the hall the two guys of my documentary, and one of them is still alive. And he was all like doing the wrestler act in front of his town, all excited, talking a lot, posing to the crowd. But when we gave him the award, at some point he said, guys, I can't go on. As in, he had tears in his eyes. So it's something that is going well, and we've managed to get the backing of many Italian leagues that have helped us financially so that we can buy more awards, give them to people. So yeah, it's something we strongly believe in. I hope to get Rocca at some point, Antonino Rocca, but we need to run the show in his town because I'm not in touch with any of his descendants. We want to put Carnera, but we need to do it in his own town because, again, that's where you need to do it. And his town is far away from me and from any wrestling. So kind of a bit of a challenge. Actually, you know what? You've been so kind with me. So let's tell the world before we've announced it to anybody else as a thing, as a preview. In August, we're putting Elio Di Paolo in it, in his hometown.
Very nice.
And yes, Elio is one of the guys with the strongest connection to Italy. He came home very often. He's got family members I'm in touch with. The same for Michele Leone. Michele Leone came back to Italy for long periods. He's going to go in when we have the right opportunity. So yes, it's. I think I could say I'm quite proud of it. We got 6 or 7 inductees at the moment. One is going in on Sunday. Another journalist who was very important for Italian wrestling, and that's it.
That's great.
Well, maybe before your next induction ceremony, we can have you back on the show again and tell us more about your documentary and all this other stuff. There's just so many things to talk about. Can't squeeze it into an hour. We didn't squeeze it into an hour, but make sure you give our fans your social media links so that they can get in contact with you.
Well, yeah, I mean, because the names are in Italian, you might have to do a few searches, but I'm sure you can find me because of the fact that I follow pages, Evan follows me, and so on. You should be able to find me. Like Facebook, it's called Il Drago, F-A, Ricerche, Ricerche, and that should be enough to find me. And then Il Drago, again, on what's the name, on Instagram, and so you'll find me there as well. I tend to cross post, so whatever goes on Facebook goes on Instagram. So if you're younger and you say Facebook is for boomers, come and find me on Instagram.
There you go.
Well, thank you so much for being part of our show today. It was very informative, Really liked meeting you, and we're really looking forward to having you on our show again, hopefully soon.
And same here, of course. So goodbye to everybody, but see you all soon enough, I hope.
Thank you
All right,
so much.
thank you. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you all next week for the big 6th anniversary show. See you then. Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.